Good morning, everybody. Natalie coming to you live. Spirit and coffee. Got my coffee here. Lovely. Okay, so let's get started. So my life is in a whirlwind right now. And I don't know how you guys are doing or what's going on with you, but definitely some big, huge spiritual battles are sort of creeping in my life, and that's part of it, right? That's part of the alchemy. That's part of life in general, is that there is suffering. You're going to experience suffering, and you're going to experience heartaches and hurt and pain and all these other things that come along with being human and living in this three-dimensional time space. And for me, part of the big thing that's coming up, right, is a battle with my historical trauma. The past, right? And how that's come to the present future, things when I was a child surfacing and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of funny when you tell people that your heart's broken and this is that, and they think it's always like naturally it's a guy, right? It's not a guy. It's never a guy for me. It's family issues for me all the time. And that's because I care so much about my family. But now it's to the point where how much? To the point of my own mental health and well-being, and recognizing this, that it's okay to let go of people in your life, even family, if it's not serving or supporting your mental well-being. And this is where I was talking about the boundaries, and it's been kind of crazy, and I don't mind sharing my story because the reality is as I've been reading about the shaman, right? And then I think people are really interested in shaman, which came from Siberia. Actually, they were Indian. It seemed like it sort of went from India to Russia, right? And this specific tribe is a shaman. It's not everybody who does medicine is shaman, but in reading about really the historical context of the shaman and recognizing that the shaman themselves basically were seen as crazy to the outsiders, weird and crazy, and something was wrong with them, and all these things. And it's because they would go into these meditative states and hum and say all this stuff and go crazy, and their mind they thought was crazy. But here's the deal: they learned how to overcome, and this is the beauty. They've learned how to overcome those mental illnesses, and they can walk in society without taking medicine. Their medicine is being able to meditate and then heal the community by getting messages, from the spirits, they say. And I started to think about myself. And so what's going on in my life, and maybe this will help you, hopefully it will help you, is that nothing is perfect and things fall apart. And there are people in my life that don't seem to listen. They're not listening to me. They think that what I'm saying is crazy, or what I'm saying is whatever they think. And all I'm asking, right? I'm asking for one thing: boundaries. Please respect my boundaries. That's it. It's a simple request, right? It's a request that says, hey, I don't choose to see you. I don't want you in my space. Please leave. Just go away, right? But people don't know how to set boundaries and stick to them and articulate them and communicate them. And so people, which is, to me, it's immature for a person when, and I don't know, I'm judging. I know that saying immature is a judgment, but it's sort of, it's not respectful, right? If someone says, I don't want you in my space, it's nice to just say, look, I'm going to walk away, and okay, I'm sorry, I'll stay out of your space. So what's been happening with my mental health, right? And maybe you guys can relate when it comes to mental health, is that every time I see this particular individual, it triggers some sort of uncomfortable response in me. And I'm like, I don't want to feel that. Can you please go away? You don't live here. Why are you coming here? If I feel this way about you, it's for a reason. I'm not making it up. I don't feel comfortable around you. And this is sort of, and I've kind of, and maybe I should read into it, but it feels like mental and emotional rape, right? When people come into your space that you're asking not to. You're saying, please respect me. Just leave. And for them to laugh in your face like it's a joke and call you crazy, that right there is the problem. So with the shaman, when we think about these spiritual practitioners, when they were going into these states, right, from the outside looking in, and people calling them crazy, is probably the most disrespectful thing that you can do to an individual, especially if they're in this mental state of being. It's listen to the person. Listen. I mean, if you have a heart, obviously these people, in my opinion, don't have a heart. They don't give two shits, right? They're laughing in my face, thinking it's funny. Ha ha, I'll be back. That's taunting. And that's just inconsiderate. And it's terrible. It's terrible. Who does that, right? If somebody told me leave, please leave, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm okay. I get it. You don't want me around. It's okay. I'll leave. Right. And gracefully, rather than, recording me. So I had the individual record me and laugh at me, and I flipped him off. So there you go. I just said, boop, and do him the finger, show that on your camera. And, it's because it's inconsiderate. And it's funny because the individual is older than me. This is an individual we're talking is way older than me, behaving as a child, not listening to what I'm saying. And hi, Daisy. And probably not listening. Why? Because one, I'm a woman, and this person has that idea or ideology in their head that the man is the man. And two, right, doesn't listen to what I'm telling him. He doesn't listen. He's not listening to me. And dismissing what I have to say as crazy or whatever. And this is a problem in society where women are made wrong for expressing their emotional states of being, and people saying, oh, she's just crazy. Well, may I join talking? Yes. Okay. So Daisy, can you hold off for just about 5 minutes? I don't know how long you have. Only because I stream live on Facebook and Instagram, and they won't hear you, but I've been in my sessions cutting that and then staying on. So if you can just wait, that would be amazing. I would love to have you on. And I think this is a subject that a lot of people can tap into and understand, right? Historically, right? So if we thought about America, it's like, man, oh, she's just crazy. And so with the shaman, and this was a question that I wanted my professor to talk about, is that they called it Arctic hysteria for the women who were basically telling these people, these white individuals. So these white men came, they were calling them crazy. They were observing the people. They kept saying, leave, go away. Or they would say they were having temper tantrums. And the reality is I don't think they were being listened to. People weren't listening to what they were saying. I'm telling you that this makes me feel uncomfortable. Why are you continuing to think that it's okay to make me feel uncomfortable? And I'm asking you, and I'm saying it, and you're not listening. You're not listening to what I'm telling you. And that's a problem. And literally at the expense of what? My health and well-being, right? And so I've been writing a lot of posts on my personal page on Facebook and stuff about the mental well-being, the mental health. And a lot of people think it's like a guy, right? It's like it has to be tied to a guy, and it's not. It's my family. It's my own family that's actually kind of, I don't want to say doing this to me like I'm a victim, but are enticing that. And for me, I'm like, I don't choose to be treated that way, right? Like there's a boundary for me. Like I am worthy. I am enough. I matter. And my emotions and my feelings and what's coming up for me matters. And if people can't respect that, then I need to stay away because it's not good for me. And I have to take care of me and my well-being and what feels good for me first. And if it's like stranger danger, right? I'm not going to do this. So setting your boundaries and knowing your limits, right, is critical. And sticking to it. And if the other individual can't respect that, it's not on you. You're not crazy for setting boundaries. You're not crazy when you ask them to leave. And, and people are like uncomfortable with that because most people are like, I'm not going to say nothing. But why? Why compromise your own personal well-being in your space, right? If you looked at the space and place that you're in, at what point are you willing? What's your comfort level for allowing an individual into your space? And if they keep coming into your space, in my mind, that is emotional and mental rape. They continue to penetrate your field when you're asking them not to, and they're not respecting it. They're totally not respect, which means they don't respect you. That means that they don't have any respect for you. if they respected your wishes, right? And then they would say, okay, I respect that, right? Instead, they're saying, I don't care what you say. I'm going to do what I want to do. And that to me is terrible. It's just terrible. And people are doing this left and right. So, just kind of look at yourself. Ask yourself, when people set boundaries with me, am I aware of them? Do I continue? Is it causing mental stress or anguish on someone? Do I want to do that? Is it okay for me to engage that or not? And why is this individual have this response with me? Why? What's there? Is it unfounded? It's probably not. If someone's telling you to stay away, there's a reason why. It's not just because they want you to stay away. I'm sure there's something deep inside that's happening internally to them that's driving that behavior, that's driving that communication. Good morning, Poetic. That's causing and pulling out and drawing out the individual to say these things. So it's really understanding why. So yes, for my life, it's been crazy. I literally, like I said, I got yesterday. It was crazy, right? So this individual that keeps showing up, I keep asking, can you please just leave? Go away. Why are you keep coming back here? You don't live here, number one. Number two, you don't have any say here. So why are you hanging out? Go away. Go away. And then he proceeds to taunt me, right? And laugh at me and say I'm crazy, which is taunting me, which is triggering all these emotional responses. Then tells me I'll be back. Don't worry, I'll be back, which is abuse again. And I'm like, okay, comes back. I proceed to tell him to leave again. And then he decides to pull out his phone and record me, right? When I'm like losing my shit, like get out of here, like screaming at him because I need him to leave. And he records me, right? Like, what are you going to do with that recording? Tell people that I'm crazy. I have nothing to hide, right? And then proceeds to tell me God's watching. Oh yeah, what, God's watching that I set boundaries and I'm asking you to leave and you're not listening? You're not listening to me, dude. It's not sinking into your head. And because you think you're a man, that your presence are more important, and what I have to say is crazy. No, it's not. I'm telling you. Who is this? I'll blast it all over social media. It's actually my mother's husband. So there. That's all I'm gonna say. Hello. And I'm in a sticky situation right now where I need to get out, of course. I don't feel safe or protected. And I don't feel like I have that protection, right? It's so for me, yeah, I know. And I think most people can understand, right? It's family trauma and stuff. And for me, what I'm doing though, as part of my spiritual practice, is asking myself, what am I willing to compromise and not compromise? How am I willing to feel? I'm not willing to feel unworthy or not heard. See, I'm even going to cry because this taps the emotional state of being to really set your worth up, right? Knowing that you're worthy, understanding your worth, knowing what you will and will not compromise. And it's okay to do that, right? It's okay. Good morning, Doreen. It's okay to set those boundaries and it's okay to tell people no, right? But we've been made wrong for this. We have, especially women, right? And that's why there's all this rape and all the stuff that happens with women because we're the crazy ones. And when we voice our opinions and we said no, and they're like, well, what did you do? What do you mean, what did I do? I told them to stay away. That's what I did. And they didn't listen. They're not listening. They're not hearing, and then they think it's a joke, right? When you're in tears and you're crying, you're saying you're really causing trauma inside of me. You think it's funny, and it's not. This is real for me. This is causing some kind of emotional response within my body, and then just thinking it's a joke and recording me like I'm somebody crazy and laughing in my face. That's just, to me, that's like someone spitting in your face, right? Someone just spit in your face or publicly flogged you, right, in front of people. And this happened in front of people, actually. So there were workers here. There were people here who witnessed it. And I talked to the guys that were working here and I said, look, I said, I'm sorry. I was like, I'm not crazy. I just don't understand why this individual keeps showing up. They don't live here. They don't live here. I don't go to his house, right? I don't go taunting him and laughing at him and invading his space. So for me, and I've been very emotional for these last couple of days, but for me, it's like, so the protection and asking God, and when he said, oh, I hope God's watching, I'm like, no, God is watching. You're absolutely right. So he was there because it's a big drama in our family, and I know that if the people who are involved heard me, my family, they'd be so pissed. And for me, I don't care because I have nothing to hide. I just throw everything out there. Why? Because that's life. Life is messy. Spiritual alchemy is not beautiful. When you're working through the esoterics and you're going into the trauma and past, being authentic is the most important thing. When you can talk your truth and you can tell everything and be exposed, right? That's true alchemy, because you're saying, hey, I get it. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that I was perfect in this entire situation. Maybe the way that I approached him was maybe I don't know, maybe it wasn't the right way, but I don't know how to do it because I never have, right? I've never really set and stood firm in my boundaries with somebody, especially someone who keeps coming, right? Eventually I just shut up and don't say nothing. And no, I think it needs to be vocalized. Like, hey, I've told you over and over again, there's a boundary here and you're not listening. And that's disrespectful. And so he's over here because it's a big drama. Let's just say that it's time for me to move on. And I don't choose to engage with the individuals that are part of this. I don't want to have anything to do with them, like literally. And it's close family members. And it's people that I love, but I love me more and I choose me. And that's part of alchemy too. And it's almost an eye opener, right? Because you'll go your whole life and then all of a sudden, boom, in your face, right? It's kind of interesting what happens when these things sort of like magnify and open up our minds and we're like, what the hell just happened, right? Who is this person that I thought was this person and it's not, and it's words, right? Words are empty and words are all this, right? But part of it too is me learning. So I'll tell you the big lesson that I'm learning is that I think, create these fantasies of what we want to see in the world, right? And it's okay to do that. But at what cost, right? At when are you going to wake up and really face the reality of the situation? And that's what helps us move forward, to face the reality and stop living in the fantasy. And I think for a long time, I was living in the fantasy of an individual. I was romanticizing it and not really looking at what was the actions of this individual over time. And over time, the fantasy is disappeared. It's broken. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. 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 And the behavior, right, is really who the person is, not the words, right? And so for me, it's really being diligent about that and looking at that. That's part of alchemy. So it's looking at what people say and then looking at their actions. And I know we talk about this a lot, but truly looking at their actions, really letting that set in, not just looking at their actions and then thinking, oh, but it's looking at their actions and letting that set in for you. Really let it sit and ask yourself, okay, they're saying this, but this is what's happening. What's the reality? What's the truth? Okay. Their words may sound magical and beautiful, and they do all these spells, and they can put you under a spell. Words can put you under a spell in belief in a fantasy, and they can keep you there because you're thinking that they're going to be this way, and they keep showing up differently. So how are they showing up is critical. The observation of behavior over time, right? And really looking at it. They can say this, but if they're doing this, what is it that's happening here? There's a disconnect in integrity for the actions and the words, right? And so looking at their actions. And I think that this is helpful for abusive relationships, right? And especially with men and women. For me, it's not about men and women because I'm not in a relationship, and I typically am not. 99% of the time, you can guarantee I'm not in a relationship. But this is all relationships, right? It's all relationships with our family, with the people we love, and looking at their behaviors and being like, no, it doesn't match your words. And being okay with saying, I don't accept this because it's hurting me. And I care about me, and I choose me. And if you can't respect that, then I can't be a part of it, right? I can't be a part of you, and I can't be a part of it. And stay away. Please stay away, right? And it's okay to do that. So it's really looking at it. And that's the thing. It's people, and I trip out. The biggest trip for me on this whole journey that I'm going through, this spiritual lesson, is that these people are older. So come on. How are you gonna, little old me, how are you gonna just disrespect and just be like, I'm coming back, like I'm gonna trample all over you, I'll be back. Okay, well, come back. I'm just gonna go out there and tell you to leave again. Because I don't want to see you. It's that simple. I don't want to be around you. I bless you. I hope that you have a fruitful life. I don't wish any ill intention on you. I just want you to go away. It's that simple, right? So why can't we have these conversations as adults, and why can't people respect that? Instead, they'd rather taunt and record and say I'm crazy. Doesn't make sense to me. But whatever, people are people, and people are going to do what they do. And they're going to be mentally abusive, because it feels like mental abuse to me, and emotional abuse, actually. And it's cool though, but I will say this. God shows up, because obviously this is about spiritual alchemy. It's like, how do you overcome something like this, right? How do I overcome it? God is there. And that's the beauty, and it's recognizing. So the prayer, right, is like, God, you know my heart, you know who I am, you know what I do. I get on here every morning to give back to humanity. I'm doing the best that I can to stay true to my word, to follow my integrity, to love, to be a good person, right? Every day of my life. And it all comes back. And that's the beauty. When you stand in integrity and you stand in love, and then you forgive and you set your boundaries, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with setting boundaries. You're not crazy, right? It's okay not to have people in your space that make you, that trigger, I'm not going to say make you, but trigger unworthiness in you, right? That it's okay to say no. You can. And there's nothing wrong with that. But God shows up in miracles, right? And that's the beauty, is that people have reached out and said, are you okay? How do you feel? And it feels like God speaking through them, right? God speaking through them. God saying, it's okay, honey, I'm here. I'm here, right? That's what happens. That's how God communicates to you, through people, through acts of kindness, through other individuals, right? That God will reach out and say, it's okay, that you have a protector here for you, right? Like my father, which I love. Like he's a little rough around the edges, and I've talked about my father, but you know what? He said the most beautiful things to me, and that's what I love about my father. He's a very wise man. And he said, I would never want to lose you, which is a beautiful thing, right? To hear. I would never want to lose you. You're a gem. So, to hear those words, right? You are somehow cheesy and emotional now. Yeah. And, those are beautiful words to hear. I would never want to lose you. You're a star. You're beautiful. And it's good to hear those things. And that's God speaking to you. When you hear those things, when people show up and you're going through your trauma and you're going through all of this stuff and it's resurfacing, and you're like, am I crazy? And you're praying, you'll hear the voice of God. And the voice of God comes in many forms, but through people, other people. Are you okay? You're going to have someone reach out to you. Someone say, hey, are you okay? How are you feeling? And I've had angels show up left and right, and I'm so grateful for that. Grateful, right? And thankful. And that's how we can be here for each other, right? Because then we get to pay that forward and we get to be that voice of acceptance and belonging to somebody else who might be going through this, rather than laughing at them and recording them and calling them crazy, which is just awful. To do that to someone who's in a mental distress, right? To call them crazy. What if you looked at them and said, "Are you okay? Is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to support you?" The kindness and the care and compassion, and that's what we need at this time, right? So there you have it. um I'll stay on the Podbean. I get a little emotional sometimes. It's been a long time since I've got emotional, but let me tell you what it does. It clears out the mucus. So that's a good thing, right? It's like clearing out the toxins when we cry. I'm like, ooh, get rid of all these mucus in my face and all that stuff. So there you have it. And I'm just grateful. Thank you guys for those who reached out. If you're on Facebook and you reached out, those on Instagram, now you know what's going on. Remember, it's okay to set boundaries. You're not crazy. And as women, the women that are on here, remember your voice matters and you're not crazy. And if somebody says that when you're in emotional distress, just remember they're not respecting your boundaries or they're not respecting your emotional space. And we get to say something about that. You can actually speak up about that, because we're not. And and it's okay to be that way. So there you go. I'm giving you permission. Give yourself permission. I give myself permission, right? And I did go. I was like, "You want me to go crazy?" I did flip him off. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't help it. I had to. That's the ego in me. That's the ego in me. But the God self in me says, "Please just listen to what I'm telling you. I'm just trying to express something. Like, I don't feel comfortable around you." And that's it. It's simple. That's it. Okay. So there you have it. I'm going to stay on Podbean for those if you want to call in. Daisy, if you're still on, we can do that. I love you guys. Have a great day. It's Friday, so have a funky, fabulous, phenomenal, freaky, funky Friday. I'll see you guys on Monday on Instagram and Facebook. All right, so I've stopped streaming and I'm on Podbean. I know Daisy wanted to call in. You are more than welcome to call. Here we go. Connect.
Hello.
And hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. I enjoy actually listening to you, but that the last part that you were cheesy, I was somehow sad. Because you were expressing your feeling truly, and I wish the best thing happened for you. But I'm just because I am a language teacher and I am very far from you. But I want to tell you something. You know, for the issue of the COVID-19 that most of us all around the world, we are in quarantine. I'm seeing that, many people are suffering from such issues. And as a teacher, I'm seeing that mostly adults, bringing their problems and their issue to the language classroom. And for me, it's too much tough how to deal with them, how to just help them. But I'm seeing that all of us now, no matter where we are in the same boat.
So how has this impacted you and your family?
Oh my God, I can say that it's too much. Recently I had a student. He was about 25 years old, and he brought all of his issue and problem, his loneliness, everything to the class. And I don't know how to cope with. And because I'm not a psychologist,
Mm.
finally, I had to talk with a psychologist. I call a psychologist and talk with her and ask her, okay, what should I do with this case? And yes, she helped me to overcome the issue. But emotionally, I hurt it a lot,
Oh
a lot.
yeah. So you're sort of Do you feel like you're wearing their emotions in some way? Like you absorb that emotion or their
Exactly.
emotions? Uh-huh.
Exactly. He used to tell me that I love you, I love the class with you because your energy is totally positive for me, but I'm suffering because my life is full of stress and these things. Um, and I paid my full attention to him. But finally, the person who heard it a lot was me. He
Okay.
overcome and that I just you know came up with the new issue because I talked with the psychologist and I told her about his behavior, what is he doing, what is he saying, what everything. And unfortunately, the psychologist told me that it seems that that person, although he's well educated and he now has a good job at that right now, even because I'm disconnected with him now,
Okay.
he's suffering from the bipolar problem. And we found
Mhm.
out the parents were separated. And now at this age, at this 25, he's
Mm.
suffering and looking for the affection from all people.
Sure, sure.
And yeah, yeah, and then the only thing that the psychologist told me is that um, just disconnect with him. You cannot do anything for him.
Hmm. So it sounds to me
And
like it's still weighing on your heart though, because you're bringing
yes,
it up.
I sympathize, and I feel sympathy.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Just yeah, because I saw him as a very good guy. But I didn't know why. This is the I feel just I don't know how to say, but I'm as a teacher, I like to all of my students to be happy. But
Mm-hmm,
nowadays, again, not only that case, but I talk with online classes, join especially adults, because teenagers are happy as before now. Um, they are even the recently again the new student just came to me, asked me to talk after the class about 20 more minutes online, talking, just chit chatting about her issues.
mm-hmm,
I'm seeing that it's not, these are two recent cases that I told you. And
mm-hmm,
they are
mm-hmm,
not happy with the relationship, with the loneliness. They think that, okay, now at this time of the quarantine, um, they won't be a good future, but we are living with the hope. Now, these are the things. But
So my question is like, what are you doing to support your emotional and mental and physical well-being?
for the physical, I can't say because all of my classes are online. I usually go out for the morning walk,
Mm-hmm,
and I need it, and I do some just simple exercises at home in my bedroom.
mm-hmm,
But emotionally, it's totally difficult. I just say
mm-hmm,
myself, they are only a student. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not the sister.
mm-hmm,
I cannot. This. I'm not a second mother. You know, I'm saying these things, but in order to keep the boundaries between myself and the student.
mm-hmm,
But sometimes I'm seeing that it's inevitable. You cannot just uh, do anything because they again the newest student coming with a new issue. It is in for me it seems like that I myself I have forgot my life
mm-hmm.
with
Okay. So
personal
you're
issues. I'm thinking about this, thinking about that.
did so
Yeah,
you said you've forgotten your own life, right? That's what you
yeah,
said.
totally.
Okay. So it
Especially
sounds like
about the. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interruption.
oh no no no. Go ahead. Go ahead. You
Especially for the last 3 months that I had that student that we finally recognized that he was suffering from the bipolar, because he used to text me a lot, even whatever happened for me from morning to the night. Even he used to send me the text at 12 or 1 a.m. and said whatever happened for me. And he wanted my support. For example, he had an accident and he took a picture of his car, sent it for me. And even what he told me about his thoughts, even the problem that he had at his workplace with his colleague. And my actually it was my fault, and I know that I answered his text messages, and totally he occupied the whole of my mind in a way that I forgot my personal issue, that I need to study, I need to go back to the university and do things. And finally, he disconnected, and because I see a kind of weird behavior in him, because he suddenly became silent, and it was a question for me. Then I told the psychologist, and he told me it seems that he, at that time he said, she said that he now is in the depression mode. That's why he's not sending any text messages. And all the recommendation for me, was that just disconnected and even block him on WhatsApp, on the number, everything, because he's like the poison for you, and he's poisonous for your life. I am saying yes, he was a kind of poisonous person for my personal life, for my emotional life. And although it's been about 2 weeks, I'm disconnected with him. But for me, it's like, I feel, missing him, just like, I don't know, it's very difficult
Sure.
to
So it
express.
sounds like there's like a gap in your life, and you've totally become consumed, losing your own
Exactly, because,
personal understanding of people.
silence.
Mhm.
I was in a silence of in my personal life, just a silence. I'm an adult, just
Okay, so
studying, doing.
are you uncomfortable with the silence? What is it, or what is it about the silence that you're uncomfortable with?
Not too much, because I used to work in a language academy, and it was full of students. I was enjoying the buzz in the air. I was among the lots of students. For example, in each class there were about 15 students, and we had a lots of games, learning, laughing together. Uh, but when the COVID-19 just came up, everything canceled, and now we are on the online class. And online class are not comparable to the physical classes. You can see people. I mean, in some platform you can see people, and some platform you cannot. And again, back to the silence of the home. And at first it wasn't comfortable for me, but I'm, I am used to now. But that
Okay, but
person, when
then the
he came,
person, okay, so
he,
check
yeah,
this out, Lizzie. Listen to me. So it sounds like you were engaged,
okay,
then you were at home in silence, then you had the silence be kind of duped out through this person, and now you're really in silence. Does that make sense? So you weren't really in silence.
hmm,
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like, yeah, you were in silence because you were in your house, COVID happened, you were by yourself, but then this individual came into your life and sort of took away the silence. And now you're faced
exactly,
with the silence, and now you're faced with the silence again. So there's this uncomfortable, or at least that's what's coming up for me, that you're uncomfortable in being in silence. So,
exactly,
so that's what I'm
exactly.
asking you about, is that silence that's coming up for you. Why are you uncomfortable with it? What has you uncomfortable? What do you feel like when you're in silence? Actually, let's start there. I want you to do me a really quick favor. I want you to put your hands on your knees. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to take a couple of deep breaths. Anybody else who's on here can do this practice with us really quickly. So I want you to just take a deep breath in and exhale. And I want you to inhale again. And I want you to exhale. And I want you to just be in the silence. And as you're in the silence, I want you to ask yourself, where do I feel it? What does it feel like in my body? Not in my mind, in my body.
Oh, you know, I can say that I'm okay now, but if you asked me this question 2 weeks ago, that what do you feel now? I can, at that time, I felt a kind of hole inside my chest.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. But now, after breathing, I can say now I'm okay. I am okay because I passed the issue. But sometimes, there is just a feeling of something missed.
Sure.
Uh, yeah.
Sure. So the hole in your heart, right? Or the hole that you're experiencing, right? It's looking at that and perhaps playing or being with it, right? Playing with the sensation of what does it feel like to have a hole in my heart? What comes up for me? What are the sensations? How do I feel about that? What do I make up about it? What does that even mean for me? And then working through that. Okay, so if I wasn't experiencing a hole in my heart, what would you be experiencing if you weren't experiencing a hole?
Sorry, would you please ask your question because, some part of your voice was disconnected.
Oh, sorry. So you said that you feel like you have a hole in your chest, right? So
Yeah.
what would you want to be experiencing if it wasn't a hole in your chest? What would be in that hole if you could put something there to fill the space?
Oh, that's a difficult question.
Hmm.
Um, Normal life, just my friends, forget about it. When something happened for me, we have had, and we had, we can say for both of them, such several cases like this. But when I was, in a schools or language academy, just talking with their friends in the staff room and, forget everything. But here now, all of my friends are far from me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe just sitting, next to my friends,
Mm-hmm.
is something that I can forget the issue.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Okay.
now it's possible because we are all of us are far from each other.
Sure. So, what I would suggest, right, because it sounds beautiful. It sounds like you really enjoy quality time with people. You love communication and connection. And those are all very beautiful things. And those are very difficult, yes, during this time, to have connection. And I don't know where you're at or what the restrictions are in your life, where you're at. But when I talk about spiritual alchemy, when I talk about really moving through this work, it's looking at other ways to practice, right? We know the practice of hanging out with friends are good, but what can you practice now? What could be a practice for you that would support you through this process now?
I don't know that, just learning a new skill
Okay.
for me,
Okay.
just
Do you
just
have an idea
again
of what skill?
new skills. You know, I and maybe you find it crazy, but I always been interested in mathematics.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you know, um, in in the college I studied math, and mathematics and physics.
Mm-hmm.
That's the graduate. Um, that's I did, but because I love it, I enjoy solving the problems and doing
Uh-huh.
the things.
Right.
Some people find it weird, but I like it. Again, I after these years, and because at university I studied totally different. I studied teaching and education. I really like, I found an academy that provide some courses in math, general math. Maybe this is it is not actually, we can say, a skill because you cannot use it,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe learning. There is a kind of how to make craft, for example. I'm thinking nowadays about it, or make something, as
Mm-hmm.
a skill. I'm not good at painting, but I'm thinking about learning to make a craft. Weaving, for example, I saw it. It was good.
Perfect. So those are things that you can live into, right? As we transition into like this new way of being right now. And if it's feels joy, and sometimes the practices change, right, Daisy? So going out and saying, well, maybe I want to take a class on mathematics, maybe that would bring me joy, I would, or I could bring joy to that, I should say. So looking at mathematics and then saying, well, I don't know, maybe it's not mathematics, maybe I want to paint, or maybe it's all of those things, right? But that's the point is that you get to create it, and you can live into those practices, and partially will support you through the process until you're once again able to have that connection with individuals. But what you're doing is you're connecting with yourself, right? And so looking at, and you might want to ask yourself this question, and you can write it down. I don't know if you have a paper. Usually when I do coaching, I'm like, have a paper and pen ready.
Yeah, I
How
have.
Oh, you do, good. So this is the question I'm going to leave you with. How do I make powerful connections with myself? Okay, that's one question.
Yes. I
What
yeah.
does a powerful connection with myself feel like?
Yes.
Okay. And how can I support myself to connect
Uh,
to myself?
exactly. This is a question that I wanted now, some minutes ago. It was in my mind to ask you, because, those cases that I told you, for me now, are like the experiences, the kind of the weird experiences. But now I want to be cautious more. But I
Mhm.
don't know how, because I'm seeing that. Um, people are never changed, and I'm saying that I'm very communicative person, and because it is a part of my job. You should have a rapport. You should get along with people very well and understand them. Just. Uh, but my question always in my, how just to keep the boundaries, not to feel even later hurted, or again a hole inside your chest, just to keep the distance with the student, because the student just coming to you, you want to keep the distance. For me, I'm saying that just teaching language, and English language is like all the students, no matter boys or girls, are attracted to you too much. You know, I'm seeing this issue, and this is now a problem. They start asking you personal question. How old are you? What did you study at university? Are you in a relationship? Do you have a boyfriend? These are like the crazy question. I don't like to answer these questions.
Sure.
And
So then,
no matter boys or girls, both of them, and then compare. And the issue of comparing nowadays on online, even I'm seeing women and girls asking personal question about your background education. I'm sorry to say, even some of them ask about the salary. I mean, your, you know, even age, and then they started comparing. And
sure.
this is something, okay, you are younger, okay, at this age, you are just do this, do that, but I'm now in this way. This issue of the comparing is totally irritating for me. And I talked with a friend, and the friend told me that you can say that, okay, the center that I'm working asked me not to answer the personal question. And I answer to them, I'm sorry, I
Okay.
cannot
So
answer.
here's the deal. If you're looking at how to set boundaries, you need
Hmm.
to understand what you're willing and not willing to compromise in your life, and
Yes.
why and why not. And where's your personal space? But this, Daisy, takes, first of all, the main thing is finding the connection to yourself. You've got to be able to connect to yourself and know yourself enough to connect to the worthiness within you, because boundaries are about self-worth. They're about us saying, this is where I don't let the line cross, and standing firm in that. So boundaries really require you understanding yourself. So you need to understand you. And I believe that starting with reconnecting with yourself, because what I heard at the beginning is that you're allowing yourself to live through these students. You're living through them rather than living through you. And so you've got to make that distinction between the two. What's Daisy and what's my student? Daisy is in mathematics right now. Daisy's painting. Daisy's doing all these things. My students have their problems, but I have what I need for me here. So there isn't no boundary. You've allowed it to all kind of be this, it's just kind of all in the wash together. Once you start knowing you're able to set those boundaries. Like if a student reaches out while you're painting, you don't need to respond to that, because guess what? Daisy's connecting to Daisy.
Yes.
You're not using that as a crutch, because you need to feel that connection. So connect to Daisy. Ask yourself what you're willing and not willing to compromise when it comes to boundaries. What do boundaries look like for you? There's some great videos as well. I'll have to go back, because I think in our last semester we talked a lot about boundaries and setting boundaries, but there are some great resources, and there's a great video, and I can't remember the name of it, that talks about boundaries as well and what it means to set boundaries. And I would say to start to explore what do boundaries look like? You're a scholar. What does it say? What do people say about boundaries? What's been written about boundaries? How do we begin to understand what that even means, right? And if you're a scholar and that's what you love to do, then you'll start to do the kind of the research, and then ask yourself, how does this apply to my life? Again, spiritual alchemy, this is, if you read Spirit and Coffee, it's practical use of esoteric wisdom. This is not let me think about it and not apply it. How do you apply it to your life and make it real for you? So set up those boundaries by really getting clear about what it means. But I'll tell you right now, Daisy, from just the tiny time that I've talked to you, it's really going to be critical for you, and you choose to do it or not, to figure out, what does it mean to be connected to you? What does it mean to be connected to, I don't know if you believe in spirit or whatever it is that you believe in. How does Daisy connect to Daisy and truly your heart's desire?
Maybe, that's, the point that you said, how to connect to ourselves. I just, something else I'm recently struggling with is my motivation. I'm seeing that I'm disconnected with myself, because I'm kind of demotivated person for doing my stuff. And, I like something, I want to, do something, but I know that again, back to the hard work, back to the hard study. And I say, okay, no, I don't do this. Again, I'm seeing myself, I'm getting a little bit lazy. I cannot call it that I'm lazy. I've never been lazy in my life.
Okay,
Maybe
so
as
while
you
you
said,
connect, while you connect, I want you to hear me. While you connect, okay, we've come up with these questions. I want you to be with that, because the motivation is going to come from the connection to yourself. Right now, you're looking for external motivation. You're looking for your students to be in that you're motivated for life or motivated for these things. You're looking externally. Motivation is not an external thing, and you know that. I know you know that. So it's an internal phenomena. And when we're not motivated, it's because we're not connecting to the self. This all goes back to you connecting to yourself. So really, I'm saying really be with that. That is, I call it homework. That is your homework. That is what you get to do. You get to be with that. Why am I not connecting to self? What is it? What does it even mean to connect to myself? Who am I? Maybe I'm someone totally different than I was 3 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago. Maybe my interests are different, and that's okay. So connect to yourself. That right there is your homework. That's a whole lot. Let me tell you right there, that tiny little, it sounds little, but Daisy, connecting to the self and knowing the self is a lifelong journey. And once you do, the motivation will show up because you'll be excited about what you're up to because it's coming authentically from you. Okay? That's your homework. That's what you get to do. And and you are more than welcome to, you can email me if you need more support. um, I am a life coach. I do life coaching. I've been doing some, just life coaching on here with individuals who are brave enough to get on here, and I appreciate and thank you for trusting me to go through the process, and being vulnerable and authentic and open. And so I would highly encourage you to do that homework. Okay.
Yeah, and even I just jot down some of the point that you told me up to now. And that's a tough question, how to connect to myself, because
Mm-hmm.
as you said, it's totally, I'm seeing that now, the association between connecting with myself and the internal motivation. Because there are, for some stuff, yes, I have enough external motivation, for example, the money, the salary, the raise, and these things. But internally, doing some stuff for myself, I'm seeing that my internal motivation is totally off.
Yes.
Um,
Take care of yourself. Okay. So I want you to take care of yourself. And we will end there. Thank you, Daisy, for sharing.
Thank you too.
And I will end with saying this, and perhaps this will be Monday's talk, but really caring, what does it mean to care? It's something we're going over in my courses that I'm taking. What does caring mean? How do we care? It's caring taking away from us. How do we self-care? And I think part of it is exactly what Daisy's talking about. Self-care means connecting to self. How do we connect to self? How do we refine that internal drive that motivates us to do what we do and to do something magnificent, right, for our own life? So there you have it. Daisy, I appreciate you. Thank you again for sharing. Have a fantastic, fabulous, phenomenal, I know phenomenal is not an F word, but it's okay. It sounds like it. Freaky, funky Friday.
Thank you. You too. Same for you.
And I will be seeing you guys on Monday.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so
Of
much.
course.
Thanks a million.
Oh, you're welcome, Daisy. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
All right.
Have
Bye
fun.
bye.
Bye. Bye.